thought I'd go for a Stamperia mould today to show you that you can use A1 Creatives in this plastic type mould as well as a silicone mould. I'm going to go for terracotta, which is again 1 part liquid and 2 parts powder. It is the Lady Vagabond, well, one of the Lady Vagabond Stamperia moulds. And someone asked me about the airship, which has a slightly delicate bit at the top, so I'm going to put some wire in it, which is basically a thin piece of jewellery wire, but you can use any type of wire. I can't remember the gauge, it's not that thick, so I've folded it over as well. It's actually 2 pieces because I only had 2 small pieces out here. Folded it over and twisted it round itself just to give it a little bit more strength. So very simple to do. Just twist it round, and then I'll put a bit of A1 in and then place it in there. It wants to go beyond the delicate point into the main body of the mould to hold it securely. I might actually make that bit a little bit thicker as well. Okay, so I can't remember the measurements on this one at all. It's been a while since I've cast this, but I will go for I think I'm going to go for 90. I think that's a bit too much, but I have got a Stamperia again texture sheet that I had a bit extra terracotta last time I used it and put it in the mould, which is actually that piece is set. So it just shows you how thin you can actually get it if you wanted to. It's very delicate and will easily break, but I might pull that piece out. Yeah, so any extra left in your cup is easy to put somewhere else, whether it be on a canvas or an embossing folder or a texture sheet, or just place it in another mould, ready to top up at a later date. So yeah, shake your liquid, make sure it's all mixed up, nothing's settled at the bottom, and I said 90, didn't I? So that's 30 liquid, as it's 1 part liquid. As always, I'm using a silicone cup, environmentally friendly, easy to clean up. You don't want to be landfilling with lots of plastic cups, as these can be used multiple times, over and over. You don't have to clean them properly before you use them again, like that one for instance. There's a few bits in that, I'll tip them out a bit, but I won't clean it much better than that before I use it. Right, let's move that to one side, and 2 parts powder. Oh, this is a new one. So that was 30, so this will take it to 90. 77, 84, and I like to use just an average spoon to put it in, so I can keep an eye on how much I'm putting in, instead of just tipping it in from the tub and then ending up in a mess. Okay, I haven't got a spatula thing ready. There's one, slightly dirty. Yet again, don't need to clean it properly. Don't know if any of that will break off. Don't really want to break it off in the mould. A few bits will come off, but that'll be fine. But yeah, I like to use these cheap plastic spatula things. Yet again, very easy to clean. Use it multiple times. Nice to get to the bottom of the cup to stir it. Could be used to scrape over the mould to level it out if you want. So as usual, mix till all your powder's mixed in and it's a nice smooth consistency. Again, I'm doing this when it's one of the hottest days that we've had in a long time. I've tried to get out here early before it's too hot, but it is really hot already, which, as I've said before, again, you can use A1 in the heat. You just have to be a bit quicker with it, as it will set quicker. And some people find if you mix too much, it's setting before you've actually got it into your mould, and so it's better to do it in smaller doses if you don't know the exact amount for the mould that you're using, as opposed to like I'm doing and using potentially a bit too much. But as I have other things to hand, any excess will easily be put into those, so it won't be wasted, and it hopefully won't set before I've finished. If it should set before it's finished, it really doesn't matter, because I will just use it in another project. It'll be put into a tub to be used in something else, either as a prop in the background to support another piece, or as actual focal point texture on something that I'm working on. So I think that's mixed alright. I don't know if you can see me pouring it in that way. So yeah, it's pretty fluid. With these Stamperia moulds, they're not all flat. So I've got another spatula and a cast from an A1 mould, just propping it up at the minute. I just don't think that's flat. I think I need one under this propeller bit as well. If you've seen me do this before, a lot of people don't use a brush, they just pour it in and tap the mould, which is perfectly okay. It can release all the air bubbles and give you a perfect cast. I just like to doubly make sure. I mean, with this one, with it being a see-through mould, you can very carefully hold it above your head and look at the other side to make sure that it's all in all your nooks and crannies. But careful is the main word there, because you could end up tipping it all over yourself. Haven't done that yet. Very nearly did one day, but noticed I was tipping it before it actually happened, so that was alright. But yeah, this should just sort of help it get into all the nooks and crannies. It has a slight self-levelling property to it, but I just like to help it along a bit, especially in the heat. Because on one of my other videos I'll hopefully show you how I'm going to use the heat to my advantage. Okay, that should do that. So I'll just wipe the brush off. As I say, I don't like waste, so before I actually wash the brush, well, rinse the brush, I will put any excess into anything that's nearby, and then give it a little rinse in a bottle of water that's really not clean, but that's fine. It's better than taking it to the tap and rinsing it down the sink, because it will continue to cure in water and it can clog your pipes. It's perfectly safe, it's eco-friendly, but don't rinse your utensils down the sink. Rinse them in a bowl, let the A1 settle in the base of the bowl, and then you can safely take the excess A1 out, and then pour your water away. Right, this is really wonky. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that a minute. Try and straighten this out a bit more. I'll take all them pieces out for now. Where did my wire go to? There it is, I think. Yeah, that's it. So I'm going to put this piece of wire, lay it in. Now this should be, hold on. Always remember to tap your mould while it's still liquid. Don't start tapping them once it's started to set, because you will crack it and then you won't like it. But it helps release any trapped air, any air bubbles, so that then it doesn't ruin the surface of your piece. Lay the wire into the delicate part, and as I say, it needs to extend past the delicate bit as well. Let me see if I can that one piece and turn it that way and see if that's better. Probably should plan this a bit more before I started. No, I'm going to need something else under there. What can I use? Let's use a peace symbol. Okay, I think that's alright now. That's sort of flat. But yeah, I don't know if you can see, this is already starting to cure in the cup. It's getting thicker as I'm pouring it. Which you can sort of bring it back a little bit more liquid by giving it another little stir if you want. But it's not gone too solid for me, so I'm going to risk it. Doesn't matter if you go over the edges, that's easy to clean up either in a minute or once it's cured. It can either snap off if it's really thin, or you can sand it off. Or you can just use it as extra strength, interest, background on your project, depending on what you're going for. Okay, so 90 wasn't too far off. This is the other thing with it being warm. A1 doesn't shrink in the moulds, but as you're pouring it, you can sometimes find that if you've done the calculations correctly on one day and filled the mould, and then the next day you come to it and it's really warm, you can mix the same amount and it doesn't fill your mould, and you're like, well, hold on a minute, I did this yesterday and that was the perfect amount. But it seems that as it's in this state in the cup, it can sort of shrink, if you know what I mean. It's not shrinking. Well, I guess it is shrinking, but it's not, because once it's in the mould it doesn't shrink. So yeah, that's not far off the right amount actually. There's me thinking I was going to have excess. But it's looking like it's trying to tip out that side, because I'm still not flat. So I'll get the rest of this out and then see what else I've got to prop it up. A bit more jewellery pieces, some more pendants maybe. There are some pieces that I cast with A1, and I've also, I dabble with glass as well, fused and stained glass, and so I've got some off-cut iridescent glass from a previous project I did, and so I placed that inside some of the A1 pendants. Oh, it is warm in here today. This is properly setting already. No, I think I want to put a bit more in this. I don't think this is going to be quite deep enough to come out. happily in an hour, and I wanted to do it in an hour. Thinner pieces, would advise you to leave it longer than an hour. You can do thinner pieces, either with support or leaving to cure for longer, as you've just seen with that thin bit that came out of the doobie-doo texture sheet. That was pretty thin. Right, well that's not actually doing anything, that one. So let's have a heart instead. That's that. Okay, now we're tipping the other way. Now I'm not convinced the peace sign is doing anything. It is a problem with some of these moulds that just don't lie flat. You get your wonky cast. Yeah, that's one of the bits with a bit of iridescent glass in it. And there's another one. So I could sand it back a little bit more for it to be a bit more noticeable. But yeah. And is that going to go too high? We're tipping it the other way now. Not sure. It's not wanting to go flat, that's for sure. Not the easiest thing to prop. Okay, that might be it for now. I'll mix just a little bit more just to top those bits up. I don't know, it might be deep enough. I can't see from this angle. I've not got enough room to get level with it. I'll put another little bit in. To see about, I can always put it in the other sheet as well. So I'm going to mix 60, so 20 liquid and 40 powder. Good job I didn't use my spoon to prop it up, because I very nearly did. No, I don't want it 40, it's 40 powder, so we want it 60. 57, 59, 60. Okay. So, turn that off, mix it up. I have got a feeling I've cast this before at 90 and it was fine, so I do think it's the heat today that it's just, with it being a water-based product, I think that I'm evaporating slightly. While I'm mixing. But like I say, once it's in the mould, it doesn't shrink. You get a true cast of whatever it is you're casting. Works great in any silicone, plastic. Most moulds, I mean, as I've just said, I do glass, and some of my glass moulds are made of pot or metal. You can't cast this in those. It will stick to them. But you can cast it in, like I say, any plastic, any silicone, and I can't remember the temperature it gets up to, but it doesn't get as hot as your standard resin that you use, your poly-moly ones, whatever they're called. They're not called poly-moly, polyurethane, poly something. that get really hot and can damage moulds. This doesn't damage moulds. No prep work needed, so you don't need a mould releasing it first. It will come out fine. What else? I don't know if there's anything else to tell you. It comes in lots of different varieties, which if you look at my channel you will see. I'm trying to get a video of each of the varieties done for you, which although the casting method is pretty much the same, the mix ratio is different on some of them. I'd say the majority of them are this 1 part liquid 2 part powder mix, but some of them are different, and you need to be as accurate as possible. So the scales I use are just cheap kitchen scales that do 1 gram increments. So much as I say you need to be accurate, you don't need to be like your 0.0 grammage accurate. Within a gram or 2 should be okay. So yeah, make sure you're on a flat surface, and if you've got a wonky mould like this, try and prop it up flat, which I didn't do beforehand because I knew I wanted to tap it to get any air bubbles out, and I thought if I start tapping it, it's just going to knock it off its thing. But I probably should have at least tried to get it somewhere near, so then at least I'd got the props right for it. But hey ho, I might have a slightly wonky airship, but again it doesn't matter. I can easily put things in the background to make it look alright, or it looks like it's flying at a funky angle, I don't know. It should be okay. So yeah, I like to make sure that when it is a narrow area, if it's deep it should be okay, and as I've put a metal support in it should be okay, but I always like to make sure that it is at least flush with the top of the mould, if not slightly standing proud, so very slightly domed up in the delicate areas, and it just gives it that extra bit of strength. Okay, so I have mixed way too much now, but we suspected that was going to be the case, but that doesn't matter because this texture sheet has been screaming to be filled up for months. So, right, is that as flat as I'm going to get it? I think it might have to be. I don't think it's pouring out anywhere at the minute. And it's just getting hotter and hotter, so it's gonna cure more and more. Right, texture sheets, obviously they're very thin. Am I in shot here? Can you see this? Just about. So it will run off the sides. So you need to do it in the middle, be careful. Quite often, if I'm doing a texture sheet without it being just the excess that I'm using, I will use ATP powder to thicken it up, which I will hopefully show you in a different video very soon. But yeah, if you're doing it when it's runny like this, just carefully spread it out. It helps release any trapped air, gets it into the deeper bits. And like when you're using the cream paste, it's good to do a thin layer into the crevices first and then do another layer over the top to help it release easily. Although as you've seen with this, it can just pop out of those little bits anyway and give you some nice interest. Oh, there's another piece that's just come out. Let's get rid of that bit. Ooh dear. Or not. No, we'll just have it on top, look. No, I don't want it on top. I want it out. Just put it there. There we go. That came from there, look, a nice clean gap. Which, yeah, you don't need to clean the moulds before using. Obviously, if it's in any of the, if you've used a different product, you may lose some of the detail from the mould. But if you're using this product, it'll stick to itself and it'll pull it out with it. So great for people like me that are not good at cleaning up. Right, I want a bit of that in this other mould that is off camera totally. But I have a little thing that wants filling that I'd previously done. I'm terribly sorry this isn't on screen, but I've run out of room to do it. Probably ought to stop the video, didn't I, as you can't see me. But I just wanted to use a little bit of that while it was liquid. But yeah, as much or as little in the texture sheet as you want. You don't have to fill the whole thing, because obviously these sheets are made for a nice bit of interest in the background somewhere, or as a focal point, whatever. There's, you know, you're the artist, you choose how you want to use it. Okay, so I will leave this for roughly an hour and come back and show you, because like I say, in this heat it'll potentially take less time, but with the slightly delicate bit at the top of the ship, I'd like to leave it an hour just to give it that little bit more time to cure. I know I've put a support wire in it, which should be enough really, but yeah, so I shall leave it there and see you in a bit. I'm good at saying leave it there and then carrying on. Dum-de-dum-de-dum sort of thing. Oh well, that's me. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so it's just over an hour. I can't feel any heat coming off that at all, so I'm gonna give it a try and hope I don't snap the end off. Right, with these Stamperia moulds, because they're tough but flimsy, if that makes sense, I like to sort of like pull the side away a bit. I should have shown you that side first. You see where I've just pulled the side away there, it starts to sort of lift it, and you can see, can you see? It just helps get that bit of air into it to just release it a bit. And I just like to carefully go around the edges. I'm just sort of pulling it away and sort of pushing it at the same time. It's definitely not as easy as a silicone mould. I do prefer to leave these that bit longer, just so that then it is at its maximum strength. But you can see it slow and steady. You don't have to push it totally inside out, if you know what I mean. But it just sort of helps it release a bit, and then at some point it will just easily fall out, pop out. But yeah, I'm sort of supporting it on the back with my hand and sort of pushing the mould around the sides and pushing it up. I don't know if you can see that motion that I'm doing. Yeah, it's it's easy to see it on that side because you can see it going clear. And then just try and be a little bit more careful with this top bit. It's just getting that air into it. Trying not to bend it too much. I'm bending the mould once I've got more of the cast out. Okay, nearly there. Come on, flag, be good. I didn't actually put any support in the flag, I just put it in the pole. Okay. That should just pretty much pull out now. And then all the excess on the side, that just breaks off really easily. Easy to clean, look, just comes straight off, flakes off. And any tidy up around the edge of there, as I said before, is just easy to break off. And because of the piece of wire that I put through there, as I'd poured enough in the base first of all, it's not poking through on that side, and you can't see it on that side either. So that is the Lady Vagabond airship cast in terracotta A1. The my bob, texture sheet. I think the sun's getting to my brain a bit now as well. I know words are a bit rubbish for me sometimes. It's not very thick, as you can see, but I can easily release some of it if I want and leave the other piece in to make bigger. But yeah, as I say, because it's not that thick, it's cracking. But I would have normally put another layer on. I just thought for this I would show you how thick or thin. As you saw, it was just a little bit left over, but that will make a nice bit of texture on something, and I might leave that in. I mean, I don't know if you can see on there, the lighter parts are the original pieces that were in. The rest of it will go that lighter. It's still curing, but it will go a bit lighter once cured. But I think I'll leave those bits in and top that up with something else at a later date. The other thing that I was pouring just off camera to finish off what I'd got left was the A1 Creatives owl mould that I had a bit of white stone left in it. I had a bit of white stone left over when I cast the other day, and that just shows you I wouldn't mix white stone with terracotta, as they're different mix ratios. The terracotta's 1:2 and the white stone is 1:3, but there is nothing wrong with putting it in the mould, letting it cure, and once it's cured you can then top it up with one of the other ones, which it's just a way of not wasting anything. And as I've said before, you can easily paint over it if you don't like it, but I quite like that effect and finish with the difference. And if I was to paint over it with some bits being darker and lighter, obviously depending on what paint you use, you will potentially get a natural lighter and darker finish to it. Obviously some that are more opaque and thicker, it'll just all come out whatever colour you're painting it, but you can potentially use that as a background to have the different depth without having to mess about with techniques and things. So there you go. A1 Creatives Terracotta in the Stamperia moulds, and the A1 Creative mould as well, just a bit extra. And all the detail on this is there, and if you can see it, I don't know if it's bright enough. Put the light on. No, that doesn't make a difference, does it? No. Yeah, lovely. Hope you liked it. Hope you'll try A1 Terracotta. Thank you for watching. Bye.